sophomore year is gonna be lit.
Alrighty, so let's talk about Gen V Season 2. Now, for those who don't know, a quick little recap on what Gen V even is. This is a spinoff of The Boys, and if you somehow don't know what The Boys is, it's basically R-rated superhero TV, so think of it as like a, what if the Avengers or Justice League were actually terrible people, and it's trying to be very grounded, violent, and messy, and it's way more realistic than what most superhero stuff that we get today is. For example, like someone with super speed actually running through someone, you know, they'd explode. And I feel like that's the best explanation I can give of what The Boys is. So Gen V takes place in the same universe, the same time, whole 9 yards, and it puts you in college campus of Godolkin University, or God U for short. And instead of grown-up superheroes and corporate manipulation, it's college kids with superpowers trying to figure out who they are and what's moral, and they're also trying to figure out survivability of sorts, because some of them don't always have the best powers. And so season 1 of Gen V ended on a pretty wild cliffhanger, so if you haven't seen that yet, I'd suggest getting out of here now. So without further ado, a little light spoilers. This season picks up right where the last season left off, with Marie and the gang dealing with the fallout of everything that went down in the woods. And now the new Dean Cipher is running the show now. And let's just say he's got some secrets. You know, meanwhile, Marie's trying to figure out who she can trust, what her powers really mean, and how everything connects back to Vought and the Boys universe. And before you ask, this show basically does tie into the Boys season 4, or at least that fallout from that. And you'll catch references and cameos, and that makes it feel part of a bigger picture. And I really like that, because like a lot of superhero shows nowadays, like Moon Knight, something like that, you won't get any fallout, right? Like these characters just aren't basically in the same universe unless they didn't say they were. And so I do want to start this off by saying this. I really love this season. I don't love it as much as season 1, but I still think that Gen V is one of the better spinoffs out there when it comes to different universes. And season 1 had that new exciting energy. It felt like Sky High on steroids, you know, where you were still trying to learn everybody's powers, figure out who they were. And season 2 doesn't really have that same discovery energy. It's more focused on consequences, you know, politics and secrets. And so I feel like in that way it's very heavier, but I actually did like that. And so what I found funny though is that nobody's talking about this shit. Nobody. I watched the finale today, and I was on social media all day. I almost forgot it came on, and I was like, oh, I didn't get any spoilers today. That's weird. You know, I feel like that's so strange for a boys show, and apparently, even a couple weeks ago, which I found out today, the showrunner even had to tell people to go watch it, like if they wanted a season 3. And I feel like fans kind of took that the wrong way. Like they meant their numbers were kind of down, but honestly, I mean, I really don't know. I feel like people are just maybe tired of that week to week or burnt out on superhero stuff. I don't know. I've got a personal friend of mine who's waiting until they all drops. I guess he'll watch it this weekend. But yeah, I don't know. But with that, let's talk characters. So Maria's great this season. I think she's got one of the best arcs in this show, with her being the main character. Her blood manipulation powers are so creative. It reminds me of that blood bending from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And the writers really do some clever stuff with that. Emma, though, I do want to touch on her. I love this character, but I wanted some more from her. She gets a lot to do, but she's mostly just kind of there for like those subplots. Like we have like something we got to do, whatever. And like I feel like we don't get into her deep psyche, especially like with her powers and like how she has to use them. You don't really touch on that a whole lot. Jordan continues to be one of my favorites, though. I think the dual gender power switching is really cool, and I love how the show treats it. Instead of it being kind of gimmicky, like you really get used to it this season. And then I feel like there's Polarity, who I actually really loved what they did with him, especially after, you know, Chase Perdomo's real life passing. I feel like they handled that story really well and adjusted that really well. It was very emotional. And I think they just combined some stuff with Andre's stuff. I don't really know. But it still worked out. Story-wise, it's solid. It's not groundbreaking, but it's consistent. And the mystery elements are good, and it keeps you engaged. The only real issue I had with this season is the villain. I liked Cipher, didn't love him. He felt very cliche. And that big twist in, like, the middle is not shocking. Like, it's not. You telegraphed that hoe, like, early on. Like, I was like, oh, cool. But it's not mind-blowing. Like, I was like, I figured this. And so that said, I feel like the last few episodes do really crank things up. The finale does ties nicely into the boys, and I really think fans can appreciate how interconnected everything does feel. And I don't feel like it's a throwaway spinoff. I feel like it feels like a real part of the same world. Now, what I really liked most about Gen V is that it doesn't really try to be the boys' light. It stands on its own while still trying to keep that cynical political edge. It's about trauma, identity, and how power corrupts, but it's also about being young and trying to figure out who you are in a world that doesn't really make sense, especially when it's kind of against you in Marie's case. And I feel like the humor's still sharp, the gore's still wild. A lot of people don't like that. I thought it was fine. It's not over the top like usual. And I feel like it's, pretty solid. I do have a few nitpicks though. Like I said earlier, the villain is weak. Some of the supporting characters I feel like don't get enough screen time. I'm not going to fully blame that though, because when you have a huge cast of characters, it's kind of happen. Like I feel like Sam also kind of got the short end of the stick, even though he had a really good arc, and then they just kind of forgot him. And so that's kind of happens when you get like 52 characters. And I feel like episode 4 and 5 kind of drags a little bit. And I also wish the show leaned harder into the campus aspect again. But with that, season 1 felt more like an actual college compared to this. And this one's definitely more political, more secretive, which does work for what they're going for. But I did kind of miss that college chaos vibe. But with that, all in all, I think Gen V Season 2 is a still, strong follow-up for Season 1. It answers questions, sets up future ones, and keeps the world of the boys feeling alive and dangerous. It doesn't reinvent the wheel, but it doesn't really need to. It's very fun, it's dark, and full of great performances. And so with that, I'm going to give this season an 8 out of 10. I think it's a solid continuation that I definitely recommend, especially if you love Season 1 or if you hyped for the next season of The Boys, because there's going to be some overlap there. And so if you're a Boys fan, you haven't started Gen V yet, I definitely recommend, because Season 2 is just as good. But that is just me. What did you guys think of Gen V Season 2? Did it live up to Season 1, or did it fall flat for you? Drop your thoughts down below, and let's talk about it. And with that, like, subscribe for more, and I will catch you guys on the next one.
Down to the motherfucking studs. Let's fucking go.